conceptual perspective, then people talk about a desirable success. All of the elements they think, intelligence, expertise. Hey, how much am I willing to give up and are not committed to the struggle? Acquiescing to the struggle, they're committed.
All right, here we go. We are back, and hopefully the technical problems have been corrected. I have been getting some feedback that the quality of video that's being produced live now on Facebook has diminished for whatever reason. But hopefully this, logging out and coming back in, hopefully we've dealt with. Okay, great, Shayna. Shayna said we're good, so great. All right. Anybody who knows me, this is Mindful Tuesday. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm real big on managing your thinking. Whether you're looking at it from a philosophical perspective, a theological perspective, or simply a practical perspective, we know now scientifically that there is a wealth of empirical evidence and data that supports how you think having a massive impact on your ability to heal, your ability to change your situation, your ability to rise and perform. So it's not just an idea anymore. It's literally proven that you are manifesting your reality based off of how you think. Now, this isn't mystical or magical. It's not saying something and then saying voila and it appears. It's your thought, it's your thinking and your speech have a massive impact on how you approach life. It's a reflection. It's out of the abundance of your heart, or more contemporarily stated, your subconscious. Your mouth speaks, you expect. Everything flows from what's in the center of your soul. What in Christianity, the Bible refers to as your heart. What we talk about in psychology and other principle, organized ways of thinking of philosophies, we call the subconscious mind. It's all the same. It's whatever I'm thinking is going to produce a reality. The moment I think it, it's already manifested. Not in the third dimension where we see and touch everything, but in the fifth dimension where it all begins. And the moment you start to think it, the more you entertain it, the more you water it. The more you entertain it, the more you nurture it. The more you entertain it, the bigger it grows. And eventually it will transition from the fifth dimension to the fourth dimension, ultimately manifest itself in what we call our reality. But it starts in our mind, and it's neutral. It doesn't have like, okay, if you think positive, you get positive. But if whatever you think negative, you get negative too. If you speak negative, you produce negative. You've got to be aware of your thinking. You've got to be aware of how you move and what you're doing. So in essence, I love Mindful Tuesdays. I love all the days that we do, but I love Mindful Tuesdays tremendously, because when you change your approach in thinking, you can take a person that has a real simple idea of life that says life is happening to me. And what you will find when a person thinks life is happening to me, they start to ask questions. Why is this happening to me? Because when I think life is happening to me, that's out of my control. God's doing it. My enemy's doing it. Somebody's doing it. And why is it happening to me? And it leaves you in a position of helplessness. And so you're always hoping something doesn't happen. But when you're hoping something doesn't happen, what are you doing? You're focusing on what you don't want to happen, and what you focus on, you feel. If you consistently worried about something, you're going to produce it. And it happens in so many different ways. I can't explain it here. Your thoughts produce expectations. Your expectations produce additional behaviors. Those behaviors are going to be aligned with what you are expecting, and ultimately be a part of how it actually comes to bear. In other words, your thinking is going to produce a cyclical effect that's going to ultimately produce whatever your thinking is focused on. And so if you want to change the results, you've got to change your thinking. And that is hard. But why? Because we are taught so early in life the difference between what is real and what's not, what's possible and what's not. And if you're in a situation and you're looking at it and it's sitting right there in front of you, you will immediately almost accept that as your reality, right? So you'll sit up there and say, this is where I'm at. Well, that's where you're moving through. Every second is different in time, in motion, in energy, in everything. The way God set these things up is that everything is in motion. It's dynamic. It's never static. It's never sitting still. If you're not moving up, you're moving down. If you're not moving forward, you're moving backward. You're never sitting still. We're in a dynamic continuum called life. And what that tells me is that if I pay attention to patterns in my past, I can see that I never stayed. I either created a cycle where I circle back around and repeated the same thing, but I was never still. I was moving. And every time I move, I have an opportunity to choose the direction in which I move. And so what we have to look at is, how do we set this up? The whole dynamic of faith, the way it was designed by God, is dynamic. It's not static. That's why James says faith without works is dead. It's not a hope or a wish factor. It's a manifestation of what I believe. The moment I think it and I believe it, I immediately communicate to the universe what I'm demanding of it based off of the belief, and the universe has no option but to respond positively to the demand. Now, the problem is some people have negative expectations. And so they're getting negative things and they don't understand it, but it's in their thinking. And then they reevaluate. Let me tell you how it works negatively. Negatively, you say, man, I just had this talk, matter of fact, I think yesterday. And so negatively, you're sitting up and you make a mistake at work, or you feel like your boss is not really feeling you at work. And so you get this idea in your head that I'm going to get fired. Now, what happens is the moment you start thinking about getting fired, you entertain some emotions that have low frequencies, low vibrations. Worry, stress, anxiety, all have low vibrations. So now you're emitting negative energy. So the moment you walk in the room, you'll start making people uncomfortable. They won't know why you're making them uncomfortable, because very few people are in tune and have an idea of how energy actually impacts them. That's why you can walk in a room in some places and immediately feel a certain way. Either you're lifted or there's something negative that you just feel really, really down or depressed or angry or agitated. It's because there's some energy in that room that's impacting you, and it's strong. And it may be somebody that just got into a fight with their spouse, or somebody that just found out they were fired, whatever. But here's the thing, when you sit up and you decide, look, I am going to get fired, what happens? Anxiety. So now when you walk in the room, in the space in which the decision makers, your supervisors and bosses are, you make them uncomfortable. Why? Because you have this energy. But also, while you have this energy, you have an expectation. That expectation is actually dictating your behavior. So now you're stressed out and you're thinking you're going to get fired. What happens? You start to divert oxygen and blood flow to the prefrontal cortex, which is the frontal lobe of the brain where the executive functions take place. Your decision making, your inhibitions, the things that sit up and actually stop you from doing stupid stuff. All of this is in the frontal lobe. This is where you sit up and you make good, rational, reasonable decisions. And the prefrontal cortex requires about 30% of your per minute blood flow. Why? Because it requires a lot of oxygen, because it's doing a lot of work. From the moment you step up and you put your foot on the floor in the morning, when you put your foot on the floor, you trigger it. And you come out of delta theta into alpha. And so now you're in this primed state of thinking. Thoughts are going, but here's the thing. Now what happens when you're worried and stressed though? When you're worried and stressed, your body triggers what's called a stress reaction, a fight or flight reaction. In other words, when you become stressed, your body actually detects danger. See, what used to be danger when we were equipped with this fight or flight thing was, okay, I'm about to step around the corner and I think I hear or I smell a saber-toothed tiger. Okay, so now I got to be able to fight or run. This is when that really served us. We don't too much now, unless you live in the hood and it's really like that, and everybody in the hood about that life, you're not experiencing moment by moment times where your life is in jeopardy. Some people are. But most people are in an environment where their life isn't in jeopardy on a daily basis, but they have other stresses. Their livelihood is in jeopardy. Their job is in jeopardy. Their children may be failing. And what happens is now the body identifies that as a stress mechanism and triggers fight or flight. What's the problem with being in fight or flight while you're trying to make good decisions and make choices, like keep your job. Because you're now thinking you're going to lose your job, but you trigger fight or flight. What happens? Because fight or flight only involves your legs and your arms, all of the blood flow that would normally go to the prefrontal cortex now is diverted to the arms and legs, so you have enough oxygen to run as far as you need to, or to put up a fight as hard as you can for as long as you can. And so now this shuts down. You cannot make good decisions in a stressful mindset. You cannot be able to reason or rationalize. That's why you see people panic, do stupid stuff. Why? Because I can't think while I'm in fight or flight. I can only survive to the best of my ability. But what are you surviving in that moment that you need to be in fight or flight? You're not, but your body has been trained to respond to stressful situations this way. So now you can't make the proper decision. So now what are you doing while you're trying to work in that state and you can't think? Making mistakes. Guess what happens when you make too many of those? You get fired. And it all came from the idea or thought that I get fired. That's how your thoughts produce and manifest realities. It's not a magic wand that is waved. It's what happens because you will respond and act based off of what you believe. You get a person who believes that if you go 5 feet into the forest, there's a monster in there that's going to kill them. You will have to kill them to get them 5 feet into the forest. It's just that simple because of the beliefs. Beliefs are going to drive your behavior. Nobody goes around and does something that they don't believe is going to produce a desired result. So if I'm going to get someone to do something, I've got to show them in a way that makes them believe. If I don't get them to believe in it, they will not produce it. You have to have an ability to produce. So in other words, what I want to get to though, in this Mindful Tuesday, are the thoughts that make us quit. See, we live in an instantaneous microwave society where if I can't get it now, it's not real. It's not going to happen. I'm going to try it for 30 days. I'm going to try it for 6 months. I may start a business and I'm going to try it for a year. If it doesn't work out, then it wasn't meant to be. It's not in God's will. How many times we blame God for simply lacking perseverance? How many times do we blame God for simply lacking the ability to stay with it, to commit to it, to see it through? We are lit up and see, it's easy to do that. See, I'll start something and then if it gets hard, I'll jump to plan B and say that simply wasn't God's will. No, the thing is, there's nothing that will be withheld for you that is good for you and others. If there's something that you can do that will give you the ability to touch lives and do great things with other people, then God is not withholding that from you. That is not God's will. God's will, in any way you look at it, from any perspective, and I'm not telling you what your faith should be or how you should enter your faith. What I'm saying is you should have a direct one-on-one association with the supreme being of your universe. And if you don't, that's where a lot of your failure is coming from. Because if you don't know God, you can't expect certain things from God. See, I know of Bill Gates. I don't know him. So now I knew my great-grandfather. He reared me. I knew him well. I knew what I could count on him for. Why? Because we had a developed and cultivated relationship. So when I needed something, I had a faith that if it was in his power to help me, it was a done deal. What kind of confidence does that produce? Now say for instance, if I didn't have a relationship, see, I don't have a relationship with Bill Gates. I know what his capacity is financially, and I know that there's pretty much any business idea that I come up with, he personally has the ability to finance it. But since I don't know him, I have absolutely no confidence that he would do it. So then I can't trust that modality, or mechanism to produce what I needed to do. And that's the same thing. If you don't have a one-on-one relationship with God, you know from whatever your belief is, that the infinite intelligence of this universe, the infinite power of this universe, God, as many call the Most High, as others refer to him, has the power to handle any situation that you are going through. However, if you don't have the direct one-on-one relationship with God, then you don't have the capacity and confidence in God to step up on your behalf. It's just like the person, who in your family or one of your friends, who the only time that you hear from them is when they need something. And what happens when you get that call? They're nervous, they're antsy, they're fumbling over their words, they're trying to create a comfortable zone for them to ask, but they're uncomfortable because they have not been communicating with you. They don't have this ongoing, smooth flowing relationship. They're coming up out of the blue and they are very uncomfortable with asking you for what they need. And that creates tension. Well, it's the same thing. If you're sitting up and you're trying to trust God for something, but you don't have this relationship, you're not even sure what. So what happens? When it doesn't come, you just simply sit up and say it was God's will. No, you didn't see it through. You haven't cultivated a confidence level that will allow you to step through. One of the things that I had to learn in my life, no matter what I faced, is that I'm built for this. That has allowed me to get through many things. I'm built for the battle. I'm built for this. There are some times I was in some of the worst places I could possibly be in my life. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking, and all I have at the moment, because I don't immediately have the answer, I know that the answer is available because God always, there's absolutely no problem, no situation, no circumstance, no hardship, no difficulty, that the answer doesn't already exist. It doesn't have to be thought out. It doesn't have to be mapped out. God knows. But at the time that you're going through the moment, you may not know. So how do you calm yourself enough to take the stress levels down so that the blood flow starts to move back to what? Your prefrontal cortex, where now you can make reasonable and rational decisions. Also, in the calmness of your confidence is the ability to hear from God. See, when you are frenetic and unglued, when you are dislodged and frantic, then you can't hear. You're in survival mode. So many people out there in survival mode and don't know how to get out. There are some people who literally live their entire life in survival mode, just getting by, just making it, just doing enough, never truly winning. Why? Because they're in a frenetic mindset. They're unstable and they have no confidence because of that. But when you sit up and you're saying, hold on, wait a minute. What can I settle myself with? And it's always something when I sit up and I'm like, wait a minute, whoa. I stop what I'm doing. I go and I stand in front of the mirror and I look myself in the eyes and I say, you know what? You're built for this. Rick, you are built for this. I'm built for the battle. I'm built for everything that I'm going to face. There's absolutely nothing that I'm going to go through that can destroy me. Death isn't destruction. Did you know that? It's transition. So that isn't destruction. See, I'm either going to get it or I'm going to die trying, and either way works for me because I'm not afraid of death. So you got a bunch of people who won't go the distance because they are afraid of something. They're afraid of losing their job. They're afraid of being talked about. They're afraid of being hated. They're afraid of not being accepted. They're not living the life that God gave them to live because they are afraid of something. I fear no death. I fear no man. I am going to walk every day in the fullness of who I am. Some people will like it, others won't. I'm good with that. I didn't come here to make friends. I came here to make a difference. I came here to make an impact. That is where you find it, but you gotta know that you're built for the battle. You gotta look at yourself eye to eye and say, I'm built for this. You see, when I look at myself and I say, Rick, you're built for this. It calms me because I'm now starting to look back. Wait a minute, that should have took me out. Back in this year, that should have took me out. Back in that time, I should have been definitely out of the box on that one. But I'm still standing. I'm still breathing. I'm still moving forward. It could not destroy me. I have a destiny. And the very definition of destiny says the more that someone tries to stop it, the more they ensure that it happens. It is destined. And that's how you have to look at your life. I am built for this. Quitting is not in my DNA. Got to learn how to be relentless in your pursuits. Stop giving up so easy. How are you thinking about it? Are you one of those people who are saying life is happening to me? See, I'm the other one. I'm the one that says life is responding to me. See, the victim mindset says it's happening to me. When it's happening to me, it's out of my control. But when I start to understand that life is responding to me, then if I don't like the results I'm getting, I change my behavior, I change my thinking, I change my focus, and I produce the results that I desire. And there's absolutely nobody that can stop you from thinking right and changing your way of thinking. And when you change your way of thinking, you change your behavior, your speech. Your expectations are changed. We got to get inside of our minds. For those of you who are Bible readers, Christians, studiers of other Holy Scripture, in Paul's letter, one of Paul's letters to the Corinthian church, the church in Corinth, he tells the Corinthians, he says that though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. It's similar in the message that he tells the church in Ephesus, the Ephesians. But here he says, look, though we walk in the flesh, we don't war in the flesh. How do we word it? For he says that the weapons of our warfare are mighty in God for pulling down the strongholds. Says casting down arguments. So though, and if you dissect that or exegete it in an exegetical process, what you find out when looking at it in the original text, which is ancient Greek, you find out that when we talk about arguments, we're talking about ideas, we're talking about notions, we're talking about thoughts. Casting down arguments and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. And we're not just talking about what's in the Word of God. We're talking about what we know God's knowledge is for us and what God has given us in our individual vision. I'm casting down arguments that speaks against my prowess, that speaks against my power, that speaks against my ascension, that speaks against my impact. I'm casting them down. I'm purposely being aware of anything that moves against what I have declared for my life. Wasn't it Job, I believe, 22nd verse or 33rd verse? It says, you shall declare a thing, and it shall be established for you. You shall declare. See, when I speak, I'm declaring. Some of your self-talk has locked you into a bad situation because you're speaking your situation instead of speaking your destiny. You're speaking what you're going through instead of speaking where you're going. Some of you out there should have been going. Let the world tell it. Let the people who whispering behind your back tell it. Let the people who were hoping for your demise tell it. You should have been out of here. But if you're still breathing, you're here for a reason. If you're still breathing, your life still has purpose. If you're still breathing, God is still waiting on you to live up to the purpose of the design that he gave you. In your design is gifting. In your design is talent. Now you must refine that. You must grow that. You must nurture that. But you have a responsibility to live life at the next level, to live life on full, to not settle. You've got to get out of the mindset of something's happening to me and why is it happening to me? Life is responding to you. Life is waiting on you to tell it to change. Life is waiting on you to change your thinking. Life is waiting on you to move in a different way of thought. You need to shift paradigms. The lens through which you're viewing life is faulty. It's not what you were designed to do. It's not how you were designed to think. You got to think different. Look, as I close this down and get on out of here, I got some things I got to do. Look, let me explain something to you. There are some things that I hear people say all the time. Then I watch them and I'm like, hold on, you just said something. I'm gonna give you one that Christians say all the time. God is no respecter of persons, which means that God shows no favoritism. But no one ever asked themselves, if God is no respecter of persons and God shows no favoritism, why do some have favor and others do not? See, we were taught not to question stuff, so we never ask questions. I'm the person, I ask questions about everything because the answers will come. If you seek me, you'll find. See, instead of being afraid to ask questions because of what the answer might be, I ask because there's no wrong answer coming from God. It may not have been what I've always thought it was, but if it's the truth, that's what I want. So then, how am I getting favor if God has no respecter of persons? How does some have favor and some don't? See, favor isn't out of the volition or choice of God. Favor is out of somebody deciding that I'm going to step into my purpose. I'm going to walk it out in faith. I'm going to live it to the fullest. I'm going to receive. I'm going to speak it. I'm going to declare it. If I declare it, it shall be established. Some of y'all are declaring the wrong thing and then blaming God for the lack of faith. Some of y'all are declaring the wrong thing and taking on mindsets and then blaming the devil for the decision. Everybody's getting blamed, but the common denominator. I tell people when I'm counseling them and they start talking about all the things that went wrong in their lives, all the failed relationships and how horrible the people were to them in those relationships. And I say, I am not discounting your experience. Please understand that I'm not discounting your experience. I'm not saying that they didn't do everything that you said they're done. But one thing you have failed to do in the midst of your examination of all you've been through is understand that there's only one common denominator. Oh, they don't want to hear about the common denominator. See, the common denominator in all of your suffering and all your struggles and all of your hardships is you. Unless all of the people that have done you wrong in your lifetime got together before the first one met you and decided that they were going to spend the rest of their lives, step by step, person by person, making your life miserable, you got some accountability and some culpability in this. If nothing else, you haven't used discernment in choosing your friends, at the very least. And if you're not operating on a high frequency, gratitude, love, high expectations, new insight and revelation, those are the high frequencies. If you're not operating there and you're operating in a place of stress, jealousy, anger, frustration, disappointment, worry, fear, all of those are low frequencies, then you get to attracting people who are behaving and thinking like you. See, energy resonates with like energy. Energy attracts like energy. If you're in a negative plane, you're attracting negative people, negative situations, negative circumstances. Your energy is demanding a certain type. You got to find the frequency that produces the thing you want. And you got to find a way to be there. See, we want to blame everything but us. And it's God said, hey, I'm going to give you free volition. It wasn't for you to screw up. That's another misconcept of God. I'm going to give you free volition. Let's see if you choose right or choose wrong. No, God gave you free volition so you could choose to move forward. God gave you free volition so you can sit up and say, I'm setting the course of my life. God gave you free volition so that you move. And here's this thing, the beautiful thing that I love. And then I'm done. The beautiful thing that I love is this. Everybody's always talking about, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. You know, if you do that, then God's going to get mad at you. You do that, God's going to do this. If you do that, you're going to burn in hell. If you do that, and you look in and you're just being constricted and restricted. And everybody say, I can't breathe because I can't do anything. No, see, this is what I learned. This is what I learned is that when you're at your purest state, your purest level, and your purest connection with God, when you're truly being what you were designed to be, nobody has to tell you what not to do. Your spirit will guide you in what should be done. You will know when something isn't right. Nobody has to make rules up to tell you what not to do. Your spirit knows what's pure and what's not. The problem is we've allowed our spirits to become contaminated. Contaminated with foolish thinking, contaminated with selfish desires, contaminated with individualism, contaminated with only thinking of self, and we lose sight of the bigger picture, that when we decide that we're going to spend our lives helping others, then things start to come to us that bless us. That's how you walk into favor. You walk into favor. You choose whether you have favor or not God. When you choose to walk into your destiny, when you choose to be a blessing, when you choose to be a mechanism of power for other people, you put yourself directly into what is known now as favor. You will be blessed financially. You will be blessed with your family. You will be blessed. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 28 and look at it, but you got to walk in it. You got to have a connection. You don't need somebody to tell you don't. That's when you're not connected. You need somebody to line up these commandments for you to tell you you can't do it, because your own spirit won't speak to you in purity because it's been contaminated. The more pure, the more you detoxify all the negativity that's on the inside, the negative expectations, the negative ideas, the negative thoughts, the negative beliefs. When you start to detoxify and you start to reach a level of purity, and you started doing your prayers or your meditation, and you're in that zone, and you start to feel some things you've never felt before. What are you doing? You are actually connecting with the infinite intelligence of the universe, God, the infinite power of the universe, God, the infinite wisdom of the universe, God. You're starting to connect with it, and all the answers are starting to stream down. Oh man, and then when you finally find your purpose, I tell people all the time, when you discover your purpose, it will explain your pain. See, when you discover your purpose, the things that you've been through that you didn't understand will make sense. But you got to start understanding that you're built for the battle. Quitting is not an option. Matter of fact, if you go to, I believe it's Hebrews, and if you're not a Christian believer, that's great. I use this because most blacks have a familiarity with the Bible, no matter what direction they've chose. And so it's an easy reference. But if you go to Hebrews and the 10th chapter and going around 31st, the writer of Hebrews, still trying to figure out who that is. Some people say Paul. Some others have some other ideas about who it is. Barnabas and some others, but here's what it does say though. It says that my soul has no pleasure in those who draw back to perdition, the utter destruction, those who draw back. And then the writer follows with, but we are not of those who draw back. We are those who press on to the saving of the soul. And there's no quitting. And right after that is where you go into the roll call of faith in chapter 11, where it defines faith in verse 1, and then it goes on through. But what do we say? We say, I can't draw back. No surrender, no retreat. I'm going to press on. I heard one of my dudes that I'm really proud of, a young brother that's doing some things and has a strong faith center, but is out doing some things in the world, business-wise, and helping other people. And he posted some time back that if you want to stop starting over, stop quitting. And simple but profound. You're starting over so much because you're constantly quitting. You get to a tough space, and the easy thing to say is, it's just not God's will. No, you're going to have to press through. So many people get to the edge of the breakthrough and quit. Okay, I'm going to get out of here. I didn't get the chance to do this in the beginning because I just jumped off and didn't stop. If you haven't gotten my 20th book, Critical Mass, the link is in there. If you get this book, also, if you go to the link, you'll see a separate opportunity to purchase the bundle at this time, which is only 2 books. But it's this book and the following book, which is about to be dropped. I Am, the Power of Personal Proclamations. And you can get both of those. Also, if you want to find out what it's like to work with me one-on-one, how I do what I do, and why people pay me well to do it, you can get a chance to do that by having a breakthrough session with yours truly, 30-minute breakthrough session on me. No cost to you. All you got to do is fill out the questionnaire that's in that box, and then email it to the designated address. The support team is going to get back with you to find your availability and schedule that. And then at that point, I'll be contacting you. We will have this breakthrough session, and you'll find out just how much can take place in 30 minutes. And then it will make you pose the question, what could I do in a year? Anyway, that's all up to you, but I want to encourage you to take some serious time to invest in yourself. Whether you're working with me, whether you decide to sit down with someone else, whether you decide to take a journey of empowerment, personal development, everybody's journey is not the same. Not everybody is meant to work together. I understand that. I am very selective about who I work with, and I have a reason for that. But the thing is, there's something out there for you, no matter who you are, no matter where you are. If you're still breathing, you're here for a reason. Absolutely important that you get that. If you are still breathing, you have purpose on this planet. It is not to survive. It is not to get by. It is not to be the footstool of someone else. It's not to be the bouncing ping pong ball of someone else. It's to have an impact in this world, to leave your imprint, to leave your legacy, to leave something that said that you came, you saw, you conquered. And that is the most powerful way to evangelize God, by living a life of power. You can say all you want to, but they're looking at your life. And if you're getting your butt kicked each and every day, all day long, every day, all year long, they ain't trying to hear that. Now, I'm good. You go on over there with God. I'm good over here because you're getting your butt kicked. You're going to have to learn how to live life with power, a power that evangelizes just by observing you. And every last person watching this, every last person you know is capable of it. But we've been convinced to play small. We've been convinced to lay low. I'm challenging you. Live your life on full so that you die on E. On that note, I'm checking out. You guys have a great day.
From a conceptual perspective, people talk about it, success, all of the elements they think, intelligence, expertise.
What other doors could be closed?
Hey, how much am I willing to give up and commitment, and are not committed to the struggle, acquiescing to the struggle, they're committed